Let's look at a quick example of how you can implement inverted index in Python, use collections module, and in process learn some intermediate Python. Let's do a little code review. Let's write a basic indexer and searcher in Python in less than 100 lines. So what is an indexer, you might ask? Well, have you heard about the data structure called inverted index? Inverted index is a data structure that is powering most of the search engines when they were evolving. So how does it work? What you do is basically you iterate through the entire corpus and you create a lookup table. So a lookup table is a dictionary, if you will, and the key of the dictionary would be the term and the value would be list of all the documents where that particular term has occurred. So let's look through the code and I'll explain you the important bits. If you look at the if block on line number 26, what this allows you to do is it allows you to separate the code that can be imported from the code that can be executed. What I mean by that is, let's say if there was some other file in which I wanted to reuse these functions, namely the index single file and index all files, I can do that, no problem. But let's say if I didn't wrap the lines from 27 through 36, anytime I imported, all these lines would get executed by default, right? That's no good when you're trying to reuse certain functions. So that's why we have wrapped that particular code on line number 26. If you look at line number 27, we have a default dictionary. What is default dictionary? Default dictionary is a data structure that allows us to kind of update the dictionary without needing to initialize it first. What I mean by that, had we used like a typical dictionary, we would have run into an issues, right? So let me show it to you. Let's say if I type in Python and if I do x is equal to this, and if I try to do x of a plus is equal to 1, we will get a key error, right? But with default dictionary, that is not a scenario. What we are going to do is we're going to create a default dictionary with an integer, and if I do x of a plus is equal to 1, we're not going to run into a key error like we did before. So in our scenario, the indexer, the key would be the term and the values would be the list of all the documents where it has occurred. The next thing I want to draw your attention towards is line number 28. It's called the function index all file. Let's just take a look at it real quick. What index all file does is in this particular list comprehension out over here. So this thing or the block of lines from line number 17 to 21 is called list comprehension. What it will do is it will create a list of all the files that is ending with an extension .txt. How does it work? Let me explain you. So we iterate through all the files in the current directory, and if a file ends with .txt, we do put it into the list. So at the end of this whole expression, all text files array or list would consist of all the text files in the current directory. Then from line number 22 to 23, what we are really doing is we are indexing all the single files. Let's look at the implementation of index single file. Index single file takes in two parameters. It takes in the file to index and the index data structure itself. So this particular block out over here, it's called a context manager. Anytime you see the with keyword in Python, it's a context manager. Why do you want to use a context manager? It makes your life a little bit easier, especially with regards to the resource management. Let's say you have opened a file but you have forgotten to close it. All those kind of edge cases is kind of nicely taken care of by the context manager. On line number 8, what we do is we do the strip and the lowercase transformation. On line number 9, what we do is we do tokenization. So by default, if for a split function, if you don't specify any delimiter, it will take white space as a delimiter. Once that is done, on line number 10 and 11, we only update the index for a given keyword or a token if that particular file does not already exist in the list. So that's what line number 10 and 11 do. After that, we just say we have done indexing the file and we just return. So once the index is done, what you can do with it? Well, if you look through line number 29 to 36, you will see that we have an interactive prompt that goes up and says that, hey, tell me a term and I'll go find all the documents where that particular term has occurred. So that's what line number 29 through 36 do. Now let's look at it in action. if I do python index.py, you will see that it is creating an inverted index as we speak, and after that it will give me a prompt and I can type in a keyword for it to search for, right? So if I put in the keyword India, as you can see in the terminal, these are all the files that has the particular term India in it. So there you have it. Isn't Python amazing? We can do so much in it in so little code. Alright, hopefully this has helped you. See you in another video. Take care.